Welcome to the Waco Experience, an American story.
We the people.
With your host, D. Scott Smith.
In order to form a more perfect union.
Interviews with leaders in business, government, and nonprofit organizations.
Promote the general welfare.
Jobs, products and services, and infrastructure for strong communities. Secure
the blessings of liberty.
The Waco Experience is an American story, a story of communities across America. It is your story.
And I think that God has that same vision, that all people are His children, that everyone is valuable and has something to bring to the table.
To challenge everybody's perspective on disability, and I promise you, your mind will be blown when you see what these individuals can really, really do.
Today on the Waco Experience, an American story, we hear from Grace Casper and Dr. MacKenzie Zacharias, co-founders of a new company here in Waco, Spark Change. Their goal is to strengthen both sides of the workforce, finding employers who need capable and resilient workers and individuals with untapped talent. I'm your host, D. Scott Smith. Each week I bring you stories from leaders in business, government, and nonprofit organizations. You can learn more about this program, our sponsors, and the podcast version of this show by going to our website, thewacoexperience.com. This program is made possible by our sponsors: White Bluffs Construction, custom building, home remodeling. Call Seth at 254-227-2002 and schedule White Bluffs Construction to build your patio, deck, pergola, or maybe you're ready to build that custom home. Visit their website, whitebluffsconstruction.com. Chord Buddy is the world's best way to learn guitar. This Shark Tank winner is made in America. Travis Perry wanted to teach his daughter to play guitar. He told her about a magic gizmo to help. She said, "Daddy, build one for me." That night, the Chord Buddy learning system was created. Learn more at thechordbuddy.com. Biddy and Bo's Coffee offers hot and cold beverages, catering, and provides employment for people with disabilities. They have a community room you can reserve and use at no cost. Visit Biddy and Bo's Coffee today at 110 Franklin in Waco. The Cactus Rose Ranch offers Western riding lessons for beginners, intermediate, and advanced riders. Bring your own horse or use one from right there on the ranch. You'll learn confidence and fundamental horsemanship from day one. Learn more online at thecactusroseranch.com. Heart of Texas TV Indoor Billboards. My friend JB, James Battle, former helicopter pilot for the U.S. Army, and his team at Hot TV amplify your brand where it matters most. Be seen where your customers eat, work, shop, and play. Learn more on the web at hotdigitaltv.com. Hey, D. Scott here, back at the Baylor Club. I've got some special guests from a new company that has just started within weeks, probably, of this recording, Spark Change. We're going to talk about that with the founders, Grace Casper and MacKenzie Zacharias. We'll get to talk about all of those things. In a recent episode of this show, talking with Liz Trujillo, and I made the comment that the support for people with developmental disabilities here in Waco is a defining characteristic of this community. Let's get an introduction. Let's start first with Grace.
Hello, my name is Grace Casper. I am the co-founder of Spark Change, and I also am the director of life coaching. Yeah, I grew up in Colorado. I went to Baylor. I'm a Baylor Bear, and I'm excited to pour into Waco with the resources that Spark Change provides.
And I am MacKenzie Zacharias. I graduated from Baylor in 23 with my PhD in educational psychology with an emphasis in applied behavior analysis. While I did go to Baylor, I did do my undergrad at UT Austin, so I am a Longhorn and a lifetime Texas X member. But Waco is now home, and I couldn't imagine leaving, and now I'm ready to serve the community here.
Let's talk about Spark Change.
Sure. So Spark Change was launched officially about 3 to 4 weeks ago, with the intention to serve individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities over the age of 18. When Grace and I were working together, we've just really seen a gap in just high quality services for adults with IDD. And this isn't just a Waco or even a Texas problem. This is nationwide. And so we just kept feeling like when we were sitting behind our desk, like what more could we do? And Grace has an incredible background in life coaching and in consulting businesses with a business degree as well. And then I have a background in clinical work and working with individuals across the lifespan with IDD. And so we just kind of put our brains together and decided we were going to launch.
And how do people get a hold of you guys? Online?
Yeah, we have a website, sparkchangeco, so co.com. You can find all of our information there. We also are on social media. That's listed on our website as well. We're on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. But yeah, like Max said, we're here to serve the job seeker with IDD, and we're also here to serve businesses. We want to teach businesses how to hire and maintain people with IDD and show them that this untapped talent pool is actually something that can bring a lot of life to their business and isn't a charity thing, but it's actually a strategic move for them to generate more profit and retain employees a lot more than the typical employee would stay in a job.
Many years ago, I worked at Hewlett-Packard, and we actually had a department that was managed by one manager, supervisor, who oversaw probably about 20 different folks with developmental disabilities. They did a lot of jobs across the site. They were kind of that pool that a department could turn to say, hey, we need these tasks done, and just turn it over. And it was I think, encouraging for the whole community to be a part of that. Let's hear about your experiences.
So I was fortunate enough to be able to be a part of starting the Biddy and Bows here in Waco. So seeing that come to full fruition was really amazing, and getting to throw a hiring fair and see so many people with disabilities come out and their families just wanting a chance to work literally just 4 hours a week. They weren't wanting 40 hours. They were wanting just a tiny amount of hours to work just to get them out of the house and to give them purpose and something that they could show up to and really show their giftings. Another piece that Mac and I try to explain to people is a lot of these future employees are not looking for full-time work, because if they were to get involved in full-time work, they would lose their benefits. They're not asking for a lot. They're just asking to be a part of something bigger than themselves, like we all want to be a part of. So that was really neat. But what I found was when we hired these individuals, they wouldn't leave. They loved it so much, which is a good problem to have. But what was the saddest part about the job was people coming in, giving us their application, and me just adding it to a giant stack in the back and being like, wow, okay, who else in Waco is going to hire this individual besides Biddy and Bows? And Biddy and Bows is doing a great thing. They're paving the way, but I think we want to take it a step further in the community and show people that there doesn't need to be just the coffee shop that hires people with disabilities, but rather can we be fully inclusive, where there's people with and without disabilities in everything, not just coffee shops, not just grocery stores, but in a marketing agency, in, a movie theater, in a veterinarian clinic, anywhere. Where you walk in and you see someone with IDD and someone without. And it's not just this place where, oh, here's where all of the people with disabilities work, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And Hayden over at Loyalhood.
Yeah.
We're working on scheduling. We're going to get him onto this show.
He's wonderful.
And talk about his experience. We met a year ago at the Baylor Center for Developmental Disabilities.
Uh-huh.
I heard his story there. Over this year, he really had his mindset change.
Yeah.
From these are the employees to help me with my company to my company is the reason I get to hang out with these employees.
Totally. Yeah, I think what's cool too about Hayden, thank you for bringing that up, is Hayden's a friend of mine. And so I was hearing about Loyalhood, his business, and he said, Grace, I'm struggling. It's just me. I'm doing all this work. I work a full-time job, then I work at Loyalhood, and I don't know how to hire people because I can't afford to hire them at $20 an hour. And also, who wants to work just 4 hours a week or 6 hours a week? I don't know anyone who wants to do that. And I said, well, have you ever heard of hiring people with IDD? And he was like, oh, I couldn't do that. I wouldn't know the first thing. And I sort of sat down and explained it to him and said, it's not that hard. There's a lot of myths attached to it. There's a lot of stigma attached to it. And I just really worked through the fears that he had in his head. And then he finally said yes. And that simple yes is what started this movement for him, where we got together and crafted 4 different job positions based on what he was doing at Loyalhood. And then I helped him spread the word amongst the community. And we had an interview session where, multiple people came in, and he ended up hiring 4 individuals with IDD. And now that has saved Hayden an immense amount of time so he can spend time with his wife at home. It's improved his productivity. And also it's given him like a greater purpose at work. He said before he was just so lonely and just felt like Loyalhood was kind of a drag. And now it's something that he looks forward to because he gets to see his guys and gets to hang out with his bros, he calls them. And he really sees them as equals. And I think that that's how it should be. And I'm just really proud of him for saying that simple yes. He didn't have a background in special ed. He didn't have a background in people with disabilities at all. And yet that yes has brought him to this other side of knowing exactly what people with IDD can bring to your business.
MacKenzie, I want to talk to you about purpose because that came up twice, both for the employees and for Hayden. Let's talk about that from your perspective, from the academic side, from the clinical side.
Yeah, I think a lot of times when people think of employment, they think that it's just a paycheck and it's a way to pay bills and, have more financial autonomy, if you will. But when you really look into it, it allows you to, again, have a reason to wake up in the morning. You have something to do. You have a routine. You also have responsibilities and you have a sense of accountability because someone is depending on you to do something. And so from the employee side, you also now get connections for social connections. You can form friendships. Also, too, a big thing that Grace and I want to do is make sure that we're matching employees with jobs and career opportunities that really match their strengths and their preferences and also their interests, because that also gives meaning. If you have a job like Hayden with Loyalhood that you look forward to and it gives you purpose in and of itself, then you're going to want to go and do a good job and be able to perform well. But if you have a job that you were just kind of thrown into because it was available and it doesn't really give you a chance to show your strengths, you're not going to feel like, 1, you're doing your best, and 2, you might probably lose that job if you're not able to perform to that standard that's set. So that's kind of on the employee, the job seeker side. And that goes for people with and without disabilities. So a lot of times when we talk about these benefits, you start to reflect on yourself and you're like, well, that goes for me as well. And same for the employer side. You have an improved company culture, maybe some accommodations that you start making in your job interview process or your onboarding. Maybe now you're offering audio instructions versus just written. Then you start to see, wow, a lot more people are now wanting to hear the audio version. And so then you start to see these accommodations that you're making are actually beneficial to probably your entire staff because everybody learns differently. Everybody retains information differently. And so I think that just improves the company from the ground up.
Yeah, I believe that there's some actual academic research around how happiness is more elusive to measure. But health, we can measure health. And when people have a strong sense of purpose, they tend to be healthier and happier.
Absolutely. Because I think, too, a lot of what we hear and what we see is these individuals leave the school system at 21, and parents often define that time as falling off of a cliff. And so what we see is a lot of times they just now are on their couch 24/7. They don't have any social connections. They don't have a sense of community. And then often parents have to now adjust their work schedule and now they have to stay at home. So they might have to, leave their job and now, income is decreased in the family. There's just so many benefits to being able to have a job so that you're not just sitting on your couch. You are able to meet other people, that share same interest with you. Because when you go to work, you're probably not talking about work 24/7. For some, sure. But for others, you're probably starting to get to know them on a personal level. And then I just think it's good for everybody else to surround themselves with individuals that might not be just like they are. And so that was another thing that Grace and I are super passionate about, is just reaching the community in a very broad sense and then hopefully expanding this, because it's not even just beneficial to that person now that gets a job. It's beneficial to everybody. And it just makes all of us better people, because a lot of times individuals with IDD, they have the most genuine, pure type of love. And it truly is very borderline unconditional love. And so when you just form a friendship with somebody like that, it really just, it goes a long way.
So today on the Waco Experience, an American Story, we're talking with the founders of Spark Change. And you were just hearing from Dr. MacKenzie Zacharias and Grace Casper, who's also a Baylor grad. You guys are a good combination because you have the academic and you have the business side together. And Grace, your degree at Baylor was in entrepreneurship and marketing.
Yes.
And I also believe that you had a project working with a restaurant my wife loves, True Jamaica.
Yes, I did. Oh my goodness.
So let's talk a little bit about kind of that experience and what Spark Change means and the logo. When people go to the website,
Sure.
what are they going to find?
Shout out to True Jamaica. It is a great restaurant in Waco. They went through something real hard where they lost their restaurant for a bit there, and now they've gotten it back, which is huge. It's a guy and his mom. They own it together. They're wonderful people. It was neat because it was sort of my first consulting experience, but it was through the lens of marketing. So it wasn't through sort of changing your team as far as hiring people with IDD, but it was marketing. And it was neat to see the ways that I could come in just as a student. I was a senior, and show the owner how he can transform some of his marketing strategies to reach the broader audience of Waco. So that kind of sparked something in me. Hello, spark change. I realized okay, I think I like teaching people, and I think I like showing them a different angle that they may not have thought of before. Hence the story with Hayden and all of that. So yeah, to go into our website and the logo, we partnered with my friend. Her name is Isabel Easley, and she designed our logo. And the logo is matchsticks in a line with a matchstick that's kind of sparked on fire falling onto another matchstick. And the whole analogy there is that we want a domino effect to happen in Waco, and then hopefully beyond Waco too. And we want a domino effect to happen where once you catch sort of the spark, or you catch the flame of what's happening here, and the experience of really finding value in people with IDD and how much they can change our lives, we want people to get so excited about it that they're like, oh my gosh, you should have thought about this. Have you ever thought of hiring people with IDD? It's totally changed the way I do business. And then same with people with IDD. I want people with IDD to have that same spark of, wow, I never thought I could actually get a career that I enjoyed. I thought I just had to settle for being a bagger at a grocery store. And we want to challenge that narrative and say, no, you don't have to settle. Let's find your interests. Let's find your skills and see how those line up and set you up for success. So that's sort of the meaning behind our logo and our name as well.
Let's talk about the journey of each of you into this world.
I hadn't really had much experience with people with IDD until high school. I didn't want to do PE. I was lazy. I didn't want to do dodgeball. So my PE teacher said, hey, there's a thing called adaptive PE where you can hang out with our special education classroom and do PE with them. So I said yes to that and met this guy named Ryan Allison. He's amazing. I talk about him a lot. He has autism, and he's the first man that I really got to work with one-on-one. And he loved phrases like Eureka and Opa, and he would throw his water bottle on the ground and step on it and say Opa. And there was something about just I don't know, he was so, I don't know the word for it. He's really he leaves me speechless because there was something so remarkable about him. And the way that he looked at me as a freshman, where I was trying to be cool and I was trying to impress people, he just didn't care. And he looked at me with pure acceptance and pure love. And he wanted to be my friend immediately. And we just bonded over Greek phrases. And there was something about the way I felt around Ryan that just captivated me, that then I was hooked. So then I just started hanging out with people with disabilities all the time. Currently in Waco, half of my friend group is just former employees at Biddy and Bose, or people that I do Bible study with who have disabilities. I feel like I can't do life without them. That's sort of my connection to this world. But MacKenzie, what about you?
My connection was honestly very similar to Grace's. In middle school, I was a part of a group. I took it as an elective. It was called HOPE, and it stood for Helping Our Peers Excel. And so during that class, I went into a special education classroom and was paired up with some of my peers that had various disabilities. And I just kind of fell in love with it. And just again, like Grace said, it was just kind of right from then I was like, okay, like this could be a part of my everyday life. Like this is incredible. The friendships that you make, the laughs that you have, they just seem to understand you. And it, again, just a very genuine way, like they see you. And so whenever I, went to college and I was trying to think through like what I wanted to do, took this class and it was developmental psychopathology. And they briefly talked about applied behavior analysis. And it really sparked my interest because I've always kind of had this drive for like clinical work and very hands-on. So I applied to master's programs. And so I went to Texas State for my master's. While I was there, it was wonderful. And they have an incredible ABA program. But I was working with very young children. And while I loved it, I just felt like God was calling me to a different purpose. And I just felt like, okay, I don't really know now what I'm supposed to do. Like, I'm here in this master's program. Like, am I wasting my time? Like, and then I got the opportunity to work with an adult. And this was the first time this clinic had ever taken on an adult. It was a very special case, which I feel like was very much a Lord thing. So through that, we were working on job skills and friendships, and it was just incredible. And I just absolutely fell in love. But during my time, working with him, I started to realize, wow, like there's really nothing out there. A lot of what we have, in the field is wonderful, but a lot of it did kind of focus on young children and young adolescents, really up until the age of 13 and 14. Then my professor and mentor at the time, he was like, you should just go on for a PhD. And I was like, nope, that's crazy. I'm not going to do that. More school, forget it. Here we are. About 6 years later, I did go on and get my PhD. And I really specialized and focused in supporting adults with IDD, specifically in employment. Now I really just can't imagine doing anything else.
And you didn't stop with the PhD. You got involved in postdoc work.
Yes.
As well.
Yes. So I did take a postdoc position, and that was supposed to be a 2-year position. But again, too, I just started to feel like, I was being called and led elsewhere. I made the very tough decision to leave my postdoc early, and that was in May of this year. And a couple months later, Spark Change was launched.
Yeah, I really want to commend MacKenzie for that because it was really a leap of faith on her part. Like in academia, that's super unheard of to leave your postdoc early. But she felt such a strong pull from the Lord to do this. And it's been really neat to have her as a partner in this endeavor and have her continue to lift me up when I'm doubtful or when I am afraid or I let fears kind of take the driver's seat. She's always reminding me of why we took this leap of faith and why it's worth it, and the faces and the people that we know that we're doing this for. And so I'm really grateful to have her as a partner.
I grew up in a college town, very similar, a little smaller than Waco, but very similar, and the university had a big impact. But one of the things that has impressed me so much with Baylor is you have scientists who are also Christians, and that makes a huge difference on their perspective and on the impact of the community. I want to talk about the future. Spark Change is only weeks old.
Yes.
You started with a vision. The reason you started this company is because you have a vision. What do you see for the future?
I'm a dreamer. I have a brick outside of Foster Pavilion, and it says "Dream Big" with my name under it. So I'm a big dreamer, but I think the vision is to kind of what I was alluding to earlier. I want people to come to Waco and walk into any place of business, food service, movie theater. I can only think of movie theaters for some reason in this episode. But literally any place of business, university, whatever, sort of be shocked by who you see. I want them to see people with and without IDD there. I want them to be served by people with Down syndrome, served by people with autism. So much of people with disabilities' lives is them being served by people without disabilities. Like, how can we help? How can we help? How can we help? And they have so much to offer and so much to help us with and serve us with. So I want the narrative to be completely flipped. And I think that that's a heavenly vision. I think that God has that same vision, that all people are his children, that everyone is is valuable and has something to bring to the table. So whether that's simply being a greeter at a place where your smile is what carries you through the job, and that's their whole job. We had that at Biddy and Bowes where someone's whole job was just a greeter, and that person was worth it. That person changed the atmosphere in the shop. So my vision is for everyone to be truly blended together as disability and non-disability in places of business. My other vision is for businesses to really realize that, that this isn't some, like, it's funny when you talk to people because they kind of, I've heard random things like, oh, well, we don't do that, or we're not a charity. And I'm like, that's not what I'm talking about. This isn't a charitable thing. This is truly I have this person who's gifted in these ways, who can bring this value to your business that nobody else can, and they deserve to be paid for it. Who cares if they have a disability? That is what I want to change as well. I hope that businesses start to see the value that this untapped talent pool can bring to their business and the ways in which it can really transform the workforce.
Yeah, people are people. I have a friend, Vidal, who is missing part of an arm. He has no hand. He's not my one-handed friend. He's my friend. That's the way we should all be seen, regardless of which physical, mental conditions we have. My wife's uncle wasn't Uncle Dan with disabilities. He was Uncle Dan. And he was deeply involved in the music ministry at church, making tapes and handing them out. When he was older and near the end of his life, there was a grade school across from the place where he was living, and he was a reading buddy for the kindergartners over there. So talk about purpose. Purpose is found in many ways. And so let's let you go ahead and leave us with inspiration for the future.
I think really the inspiration for the future is disability is not going away. Autism is not going away. I work with multiple clients right now who all have college degrees. And I think we're going to even start seeing that more and more. These individuals are now going to college and they're getting degrees, they're getting certificates. What I'm seeing is they have these degrees in statistics and accounting, and most are going on for masters. And they are working at my one right now, speaking of movie theaters, he is currently actually volunteering at a movie theater, and he has a degree in statistics. I think just really the inspiration is just shattering everybody's views on disability within the workplace. We have all of these people who, yes, some are going to be fabulous greeters, and that's great, and that's what gives them purpose. But then also, too, I challenge companies that think, well, we would never hire somebody with IDD. More than likely, you probably already have somebody on your staff with IDD. They just haven't disclosed it. So I think the biggest inspiration is just if you go into an interview and maybe it's not going as great as you think it might be, maybe being able to shift, and instead of making it social based, maybe have it be direct skills based, so there's all these ideas that I think are floating around in Grace and I's heads, but really it's just to challenge everybody's perspective on disability. And I promise you, your minds will be blown when you see what these individuals can really, really do, just given the opportunity to show their purpose and their gifts.
The Waco Experience, An American Story, is a production of D. Scott Smith Company, all rights reserved. Thank you for listening.